Every transformation begins within. You see, most people spend their lives trying to rearrange the world outside of them, changing their environment, changing their relationships, changing their circumstances, hoping that somehow it will bring them peace. But the truth is, the world outside of you will never shift until something inside of you does first. The way you see, feel, and interpret your reality determines everything. It's your inner world that writes your outer story. We often forget that our thoughts are architects of our destiny. Every belief we hold, every word we repeat to ourselves, every emotion we choose to feed, it all becomes the script of our lives. When your soul is restless, your story will be chaotic. When your soul is aligned, your story becomes powerful. The shift begins not in what you do, but in what you believe about yourself. It starts the moment you decide that you are no longer the victim of your life, but the author of it. You can't change the story while you're still living by the same patterns that created it. You can't rewrite your life if your soul is still trapped in the same mindset of doubt and fear. Real change doesn't happen by force, it happens through awareness. The moment you become aware of what's been holding you back, you begin to reclaim your power. Awareness is the light that exposes the shadows you've been living in. It's what turns pain into purpose and confusion into clarity. Maybe you've been waiting for something external to change before you feel ready to grow. Maybe you've been telling yourself, when life gets better, I'll get better. But what if it's the other way around? What if life gets better because you get better? What if the story changes because your soul shifts? The world mirrors your inner frequency. If you live in fear, life will show you fear. If you live in gratitude, life will show you abundance. When your soul rises, your story naturally follows. You don't have to fix everything outside of you to find peace. You don't have to wait until people understand you or circumstances align in your favor. Peace isn't found when everything around you calms down. It's found when everything within you does. The moment you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and faith over fear, the energy around you starts to respond differently. You start to attract experiences that match your new vibration. It's easy to think change means doing more, working harder, or chasing something out there. But soul shifts are not about chasing, they're about becoming. They're about remembering who you truly are underneath the noise, underneath the doubts, underneath the pain. Every time you return to that still place inside you, the place where your soul speaks quietly but powerfully, you realign with the truth of who you are. And from that truth, your entire life begins to rearrange itself naturally. You see, life is always reflecting you back to yourself. If you keep facing the same situations, the same disappointments, the same struggles, it's not life punishing you. It's life trying to wake you up. It's saying, you can't enter your next chapter with the same version of yourself. Growth demands evolution, and evolution demands that you go deeper, that you start asking yourself, what inside me needs to change? What belief am I still carrying that no longer serves me? What version of me am I ready to release? The real battle is never with the world. It's with the limits you've accepted inside your own soul. Once you shift those limits, everything else falls into place. You start to move differently. You speak differently. You think differently. People begin to notice that your energy feels different. Because when your soul transforms, your presence becomes magnetic. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. You radiate it effortlessly. Sometimes the universe will strip away everything that once made you comfortable. Not to break you, but to bring you back to yourself. It's in those moments of loss, silence, and stillness that the shift truly happens. When everything else fades, your soul begins to speak, and it whispers, "This is your time. You are ready to rise, but you have to listen. You have to trust that the discomfort is not a punishment. It's preparation." The breakdown is the opening through which the breakthrough enters. Transformation isn't instant, it's sacred. It requires patience, surrender, and faith. You may not see results immediately, but something powerful is always happening beneath the surface. Every time you choose calm over chaos, love over anger, or hope over despair, your soul is shifting. Every choice you make that aligns with your higher self adds another sentence to your new story. And before you know it, you wake up one day and realize you're no longer who you used to be. You've become stronger, softer, wiser. You've changed not because life forced you to, but because your soul chose to. So if you want to change your story, start within. Start by sitting with your truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Start by forgiving yourself for what you didn't know before. Start by believing that your healing has meaning and your growth has purpose. Because the moment your soul shifts, your story begins to transform in ways you could never imagine. The story of your life will never change until the author within you does. and that author is your soul. Shift it and watch everything else follow. You know, one of the greatest misunderstandings we live with is believing that change only happens when life becomes easier. But in reality, your soul doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in chaos. The moments that shake you, break you, and leave you questioning everything, those are the moments where your transformation begins. Because pressure doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. The storm isn't sent to punish you. It's sent to show you what's inside you. Every challenge, every disappointment, every dark night of the soul, it's not there by accident. It's life's way of asking, who will you become now? You see, when your plans fall apart, when people walk away, when things stop making sense, that's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your becoming. Pain has a strange way of shaping purpose. When everything is stripped away, what remains is truth. The truth of who you are beyond titles, beyond opinions, beyond validation. So many people run from their pain, hoping to avoid it or numb it. But when you avoid pain, you also avoid growth. The pain you resist will always persist. The moment you stop fighting it and start listening to it, that's when it begins to transform you. Because pain isn't there to paralyze you, it's there to purify you. It burns away what's false and strengthens what's real. It teaches you compassion, patience, and resilience. It humbles your ego and elevates your soul. Think about it. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who kept rising, even when rising made no sense. They learned how to turn their wounds into wisdom, their losses into lessons, and their suffering into strength. They realized that the storm wasn't meant to drown them. It was meant to teach them how to sail. Every soul shift begins with a breaking point. That moment when you say, I can't live like this anymore. That's not weakness, that's awakening. That's the point where the old version of you begins to fade, and a stronger, clearer, more grounded version begins to emerge. Sometimes the universe takes everything away that's not meant for your higher self. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being prepared. You can't step into your next chapter while holding on to the pain of your last one. You can't move forward while you're still trying to understand why things happened the way they did. Healing isn't about getting all the answers. It's about trusting that everything that happened was necessary for your evolution. Every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. When you shift your soul, you start to see your pain differently. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, what is this trying to teach me? That one question changes everything, because now you're not a victim of your story, you're a student of it. You're no longer reacting to life, you're learning from it. You begin to realize that the things that hurt you the most actually refined you the most. That heartbreak made you softer yet stronger. That failure made you humble yet wiser. That rejection redirected you towards something better. Sometimes your greatest blessings come disguised as your greatest burdens. You only understand their value once the storm has passed and you look back realizing that without that chaos, you would never have awakened. The darkness you walked through taught you how to recognize light. The pain you carried became the foundation of your empathy. The struggle you survived became the strength that carries you now. It's not easy, I know. There are days when you'll question whether all this growth is worth it. There are nights when you'll cry and feel empty inside. But understand this, emptiness is not the end, it's the space where new life begins. When the old energy leaves, when the old story dissolves, you create room for something more aligned to enter. The soul shifts quietly, and before you even realize it, you start walking lighter. You start thinking clearer. You start feeling more connected to who you truly are. This journey is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the real you. The one you lost under expectations, disappointments, and fear. The one that still believes in purpose, still feels hope, still trusts that everything happens for a reason. When you reconnect with that version of yourself, you begin to rewrite your story with power, not pain, with growth, not grief. And remember, healing doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you no longer let it define you. The memories remain, but their control fades. You carry the lesson, not the wound. You forgive, not because they deserved it, but because your soul deserves peace. That's how you shift your energy. That's how you change your frequency. That's how you evolve. So when life shakes you, don't curse the storm. Don't see it as destruction, see it as divine redirection. The storm came to remove what you no longer need and reveal what you truly are. Because sometimes the only way for your soul to rise is for your old story to fall apart. When the storm within you finally settles, you'll realize it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken the strength that was sleeping inside your soul. You see, the biggest shift you'll ever make in your life happens when you stop chasing validation and start embracing alignment. Because the truth is, so many people spend their lives trying to prove their worth, to others, to society, even to themselves. They live every day waiting for someone to notice them, to applaud them, to say, "You're doing great." But let me tell you something powerful. When your soul is truly aligned, you no longer crave applause, you create peace. There comes a time in everyone's journey when they get tired of explaining themselves, tired of proving that they're enough, tired of trying to be understood. That's the moment when you realize your value doesn't need confirmation, it needs connection. Connection with your purpose. Connection with your inner truth. Connection with the version of yourself that doesn't need to shout to be seen, because it's already whole inside. The reason so many people feel lost isn't because they lack direction, it's because they're living from the outside in, instead of the inside out. They're trying to impress before they've even expressed who they truly are. They're building identities out of opinions, constructing lives around expectations and wondering why they still feel empty. But real fulfillment doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from being authentic. When you align with who you truly are, your energy changes. You stop forcing things. You stop begging for attention. You stop trying to fit into spaces that shrink your spirit. You begin to move differently. You walk with calm confidence instead of loud insecurity. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You realize you don't have to chase what's already meant for you. And that's when you begin to attract. Not because you're trying, but because you're being. Alignment isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about admitting that some dreams you had were never really yours. They were just what others expected from you. It's about realizing that some paths you've been walking were never yours to begin with. They were borrowed from someone else's vision. And it's about being brave enough to stop, to pause, to look within and say, what does my soul really want? That one question has the power to change your entire life. Because when you're aligned, you don't have to chase opportunities. They begin to find you. The right people begin to appear. The right doors begin to open. The noise fades and clarity takes its place. You start trusting your timing instead of comparing your pace. You start believing that what's meant for you won't require you to lose yourself to have it. That's the freedom alignment brings. The freedom to be real, the freedom to be still, the freedom to be you. But let's be honest, it's not easy to stay aligned in a world that constantly tries to pull you off track. Every scroll, every headline, every voice around you tells you who to be, how to act, what success should look like. You're told to chase more, to do more, to become more. And in that noise, your inner voice, the voice of your soul, gets drowned out. That's why silence is sacred. That's why solitude matters. Because when you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to remember what really matters. You remember that peace is not found in proving, but in presence. You remember that your value doesn't rise and fall with people's opinions. You remember that the right path may not be the easiest one, but it's the one that feels light to your spirit. The world might not understand it, and that's okay. You weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to understand yourself deeply. Sometimes alignment requires letting go of relationships that drain your energy, letting go of habits that keep you small, letting go of identities that no longer reflect your truth. It hurts, yes, but it's necessary. Because the space created by letting go is where the next version of you will rise. Every time you release what's not meant for you, you return closer to what is meant for you. And here's the beauty of it. When you begin to live in alignment, your outer world starts to mirror your inner world. You begin to see signs, synchronicities, small confirmations from the universe that you're on the right path. You stop asking for proof and start trusting your peace. You realize that you don't need validation when you have vibration. When your energy is aligned with purpose, everything begins to flow naturally. So instead of saying, "I'll be happy when they see my worth," start saying, "I'll be at peace when I see my truth." That's the real shift. When you no longer depend on someone else's recognition to feel complete. When you stop living your story through their eyes and start living it through your soul. Because the moment you stop needing to be seen, you start being felt. People might not understand your journey, but they'll feel your energy. They'll notice your calm. They'll sense your purpose. And that's far more powerful than any applause. So stop proving and start aligning. Stop performing and start becoming. Stop chasing and start attracting. Let your peace be your proof. Let your growth be your response. Let your silence speak volumes. Because at the end of the day, alignment will take you where ambition alone never could. You don't need to prove who you are to the world, just align with your truth, and the world will adjust around you. There's a moment in life when you realize that the loudest thing about you doesn't have to be your words. It can be your growth. You don't need to convince anyone that you've changed. You just need to keep becoming. Because real transformation doesn't need an announcement. It shows up in your energy, in your actions, in the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. You see, when you start truly evolving, you don't chase validation anymore. You stop trying to explain why you're different now, why you've outgrown certain people, certain habits, certain dreams. You understand that growth is something deeply personal. It's not meant to be understood by everyone, and that's okay. Because real change doesn't come with explanations, it comes with results. People may not notice your progress at first, and that can be hard. It can feel lonely, especially when you've spent years trying to prove your worth, trying to make people see your potential, trying to earn respect. But evolution doesn't happen to impress anyone. It happens because your soul refuses to stay the same. You reach a point where staying where you are becomes more painful than changing, and when that happens, no one can stop you, not even the doubts in your own mind. The truth is, not everyone is meant to understand your journey because they weren't meant to walk it. Some will question your silence, some will mistake your peace for pride, and some will think you've changed too much. But what they'll never see are the nights you spent questioning yourself, the moments of pain that shaped you, the storms that forced you to rebuild. They'll never know what it took to become who you are now, and that's fine. They don't have to. Because you're not becoming for them, you're becoming for you. When you stop explaining and start embodying, everything changes. You start moving differently. Your energy shifts. You begin to walk with quiet assurance, not arrogance, but calm confidence. You don't need to announce your plans because your presence already carries the energy of purpose. You don't need to tell people what you're working on. Your work will speak when it's ready. You don't need to convince anyone that you're growing. They'll feel it in the way you respond, in the peace you carry, in the way you no longer react the way you once did. You learn that silence is not weakness. It's power. It's the space where transformation happens. It's where you break, rebuild, and bloom again. And when you emerge, you do so with a strength that doesn't need to be shouted about. The people who once doubted you will notice. The ones who underestimated you will see. But by the time they do, you'll be too busy living your truth to care. You know, sometimes your evolution will make others uncomfortable. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your growth will remind them of the change they've been avoiding. Your light will reveal their shadows. Your discipline will expose their distractions. Your peace will challenge their chaos. And when that happens, remember this: you don't owe anyone your comfort at the expense of your calling. Keep growing, even if it makes others uneasy. True growth is quiet, consistent, and often unseen. It's in the decisions you make daily, the boundaries you set, the habits you form, the way you choose to respond differently. Every time you choose peace over reaction, purpose over approval, growth over gossip, you are evolving. And one day, the same people who questioned your silence will wonder how you did it. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was alignment. It was patience. It was you learning that becoming your best self doesn't require permission, just persistence. You'll realize that your journey was never about being seen. It was about being authentic. You'll look back and understand that every time you were misunderstood, ignored, or doubted, it was preparing you for a version of yourself that didn't need external validation anymore. So keep moving quietly. Keep healing privately. Keep becoming relentlessly. Don't post every step, don't announce every win, and don't explain every loss. The ones who matter will notice, and the ones who don't were never meant to. Let your life become your message. Let your actions become your proof. Because when the time is right, your silence will make the loudest noise. The world will see what you've built in the shadows. They'll feel the strength that came from your solitude. They'll recognize the power that came from your patience. And they'll realize while they were watching, you were becoming. Stop explaining who you're becoming, just become, and let your evolution speak louder than your words ever could. There comes a moment when you realize that not everyone is supposed to understand your vision, and not everyone deserves access to your process. You learn that your energy is precious, your focus is sacred, and your peace is something you must protect at all costs. The truth is, when you're becoming someone new, when you're evolving from who you used to be into who you're meant to become, you have to distance yourself from distractions. even if those distractions come in the form of people. Because not everyone who's around you is aligned with where you're headed. You start to notice that the more you grow, the quieter you become. You begin to lose interest in meaningless conversations, in proving your worth to those who refuse to see it, in fighting battles that drain your peace but feed your ego. You begin to understand that silence isn't isolation, it's transformation. You're not avoiding the world. You're aligning with yourself. You're learning to protect your space, because not everyone can handle the version of you that's emerging, and that's okay. When you start focusing on your inner growth, the outer world begins to test you. People may pull away, they may talk behind your back, they may call you distant or selfish, but what they don't see is that you're simply redirecting your energy inward. You're learning to pour into yourself what you used to give away so freely. You're realizing that you can't heal, grow, and evolve in the same environment that broke you, drained you, and made you doubt your own potential. Sometimes peace looks like being misunderstood. You stop explaining your absence, stop defending your distance, and stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You realize that evolution isn't about pleasing others. It's about becoming honest with yourself. And honesty often comes with solitude, because when you're truly focused on your growth, you won't have the time or desire to explain it. You'll be too busy doing the work. You'll reach a point where you no longer need validation from people who never understood your vision in the first place. Their opinions used to shake you, but now they only remind you of how much you've changed. You begin to see that not every opinion deserves a reaction. Not every comment needs a response, and not every person deserves a seat at your table. Growth will teach you boundaries, and boundaries will protect your evolution. And listen, people may call you different. They may say you've changed. They'll be right. You have changed. You were never meant to stay the same. You're not supposed to be who you were 6 months ago, a year ago, or 5 years ago. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to shed old layers, let go of old habits, and rise into your purpose. And sometimes that process will make others uncomfortable, because your growth will remind them of their stagnation. But that's not your problem to fix. That's their reflection to face. You'll notice that once you stop explaining yourself, something powerful happens. You start to move differently. You begin to choose peace over approval, alignment over attention, purpose over popularity. You begin to see that the loudest people are not always the most powerful. Often the strongest ones are the quietest. Those who move in silence, build in private, and let their success speak in due time. The old version of you might have wanted to prove your worth. The new version of you understands that you are your proof. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. You just live, work, grow, and allow your life to tell the story. Because when you stay consistent in your growth, the results will speak for themselves. The people who doubted you will see it. The ones who ignored you will notice. But by then, you'll be too focused on your purpose to even care. There's something deeply powerful about no longer needing to prove anything. It frees you. It allows you to move through life without the constant noise of external validation. You stop performing for the world and start living for yourself. You stop needing to be seen and start being grounded in who you are. You start to realize that the real flex isn't attention and it's peace. It's not in how loud you can be. It's in how still you can remain while the world spins around you. And in that stillness, you find clarity. You find strength. You find yourself. You start to understand that your journey doesn't need an audience. It needs commitment. You stop chasing visibility and start chasing authenticity. Because you know now that real growth doesn't need to be posted. It needs to be practiced. So keep becoming quietly. Keep building when no one's clapping. Keep growing even when no one notices. Because one day, everything you've been working for in silence will become impossible to ignore. And when that day comes, you won't need to say a word. Your transformation will speak for itself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. Just keep becoming, and let your evolution do the talking. There comes a point in your journey when you finally understand that your purpose was never to impress but to express, to live, to grow, and to evolve into the person you were created to be. You start realizing that the moment you stop chasing approval, you start attracting peace. Because all along, the person you were meant to prove something to wasn't them. It was you. It was the part of you that doubted, hesitated, and feared that you weren't enough. But now you know you've always been enough. You just had to believe it before anyone else could see it. There's something beautiful about becoming without announcing. When you quietly build, heal, and transform, the world begins to see the change without you needing to point it out. You don't have to scream your growth. Your energy begins to speak for you. Your peace becomes louder than your words. Your focus becomes your testimony. People start to sense that something about you is different, not because you told them, but because you've started to live differently. In a world obsessed with validation, you learn the power of mystery. You stop showing everything you're working on, and instead you let your results do the talking. You stop posting your progress for approval and start protecting it like a seed before it becomes a tree. Because you know that if you expose it too early, the wrong energy might try to destroy it. Growth that's nurtured in silence becomes stronger than anything grown for attention. You start to notice the peace that comes with privacy. You begin to love the quiet moments where it's just you and your purpose. You realize that not every step of your journey needs an audience. Some chapters are meant to be written in secret, in solitude, where only God can see the work being done in your heart. That's where true transformation happens, away from the noise, away from judgment, away from expectations. Because that's where you find your strength, your vision, and your truth. And then, when the time is right, the world begins to see what you've become. They'll look at you and say, "You've changed," and you'll smile because they're right. You've changed, not to impress, but to progress. Not to prove, but to evolve. You've learned that the people who once doubted you were never your enemies. They were your teachers. They showed you what not to be, what not to accept, and what not to give your energy to again. They made you stronger without even knowing it. You'll also realize that silence doesn't mean weakness, and it means control. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim your power. You no longer waste energy trying to make people see your value, because you know your value doesn't decrease just because someone else fails to see it. The moment you stop needing to be seen is the moment you start truly shining, and when you look back one day, you'll understand why things had to happen the way they did. The rejections, the losses, the isolation. They weren't punishments. They were preparation. Every silent night built your strength. Every unanswered prayer shaped your patience. Every setback redirected you to something better. You thought you were being buried, but you were being planted. You weren't losing, and you were becoming. You'll also start to feel a quiet gratitude for the ones who didn't believe in you. Because without their doubt, you might not have learned to believe in yourself so fiercely. Without their silence, you might not have learned to move quietly. Without their absence, you might not have learned to stand alone. Every wound became a window, a way for the light of growth to enter. And now you understand. Becoming isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about knowing that even when no one claps, even when no one notices, even when no one believes, you still show up. You still do the work. You still keep going. Because your journey was never about recognition. It was about transformation. When you live with that kind of purpose, you no longer fear being unseen. You fear being unchanged. You no longer chase the spotlight. You chase peace, purpose, and progress. You stop waiting for the right time and start becoming the right person. You realize that your evolution doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be consistent. Every small step counts, every silent victory matters. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're becoming stronger. And that's when something powerful happens. You begin to attract what matches your new energy. The right opportunities, the right people, the right moments. They all start finding you, not because you chased them, but because you became aligned with them. You stop running after success and start embodying it. You stop trying to be someone and start becoming everything you were meant to be. So don't rush to prove. Don't rush to announce. Don't rush to show the world what's happening inside you. Just keep becoming. Because one day the world will see it. And when they do, your transformation will be undeniable. Not because you told them, but because your light will be too bright to ignore. You don't need to prove your worth to the world. Just become so powerful in your peace that your existence itself becomes the proof.